The official line given was that Walmart was closing certain stores due to resource constraints caused by the pandemic. But in truth, something far more sinister lurked behind its mysterious shutters. Reports spread of eerie blue lights emanating from some locations late at night. Some say this is a sure sign of supernatural activity. Rumors swirled all over the United States as to why such an essential part of our communities were closing with record sales. It didn't make sense. Well, now we know the real reason for these store closures, so buckle in. For those of you not in the know, my name is Chelsea Banks, and I'm the host of Ghosts in the Modern World. I travel the states looking for modern-day ghosts and share my findings here with you. This is an extra special episode because it's the 100th podcast that I've put up. I can't wait to share it with you. As I speak, I'm standing out front of a Walmart in Florida. This store was closed during the pandemic. Like I mentioned, they said it was due to resource constraints and having a low number of staff on hand. But I was given a mysterious tip that something strange had taken place in these walls. Tonight, we're gonna figure out exactly what's causing the blue lights reported. You can't see it, but the sun is starting to set. There's no one else around. I'll be back as soon as the sky is fully dark out. The recording device clicks off, and I let out a heavy breath. I thought that this was supposed to be easy, but making a podcast has been a lot more difficult than I would have imagined. Maybe I shouldn't have picked out something that required me to go traveling? Or I gave the old Walmart building a sideways look. Maybe I should have at least picked something that didn't have me breaking and entering as often. At least this was the 100th episode. I had finally gotten a fairly large viewer base, which meant that the money was finally starting to come rolling in. And the money? Yeah, that was worth it. The store that I had picked had a large, presently empty lot. The fact that there weren't any cars around was actually pretty daunting. You know how certain things were just supposed to look a certain way? Yeah, that's what this was. Parking lots of this size were just meant to be packed full of vehicles. I made my way up to the main building, over to the big glass doors that people normally used to walk through. I pressed my face to the glass, peeking inside of the building. You didn't know how unsettling certain things could be until you were forced to look at them. I shrugged off my backpack and pulled my lockpick out of my bag. Several long minutes later, I was prying the sliding glass doors open just enough that I could squeeze into the entranceway. They snapped shut behind me, my backpack stuck on the outside. Crap, I hissed. And then I decided it wasn't really an issue, and I hurried away from the glass doors and into the main block building, where no one would be able to see me. Stores were never fully cleaned out. Not really. There was no product on the shelves, sure, but the skeleton of the store still remained. A lot of the shelving systems still stood where they had always been. The counters for the registers still remained, and so did the section of the store that had built on additions for the pharmacy and the bakery. This was probably the kind of thing that urban explorers would jump at, but I just wanted to find the proof that I needed to make this podcast episode something special and get out of here. The darkness was intense. I flipped on the headlamp that I was wearing. The beam of light cut through the shadows, making it easier for me to move through the front half of the store. In the distance, there was a sound. Something shifting. I froze. Was that a light? I turned my headlamp back off and held my breath. In the distance, I could see the bright blue light drift through two of the old registers and vanish into one of the normally locked employee-only rooms. I had never seen such obvious activity before. Normally, you were lucky to get something like a cup that moved on its own or a few orbs that moved around. This was exactly what my episode needed. I hurried after it, moving to chase the light. It looked vaguely person-shaped in the few moments that it was within view. The door that it went through was locked. That was weird, right? The store had been closed down. And they had still managed to leave some of the rooms locked? Employee access probably should have ended when the stores fired everyone or transferred them off. I would have used the lockpick set to get into it, but it was in the bag I left outside. I looked around, eventually finding an old can of beets that had been left shoved under one of the registers. When I went back over, fully ready to crack it open, I found that the door was not only unlocked, but sitting partially open. Had it just been jammed? I wasn't sure, but I kept a hold of the can as I stepped into the room. It was clearly the large employee break room. There was, not surprisingly, nothing left behind. Even the table for their breaks had been taken out of the room. I called out, "If anyone's in here, can you do something to let me know?" There was no answer. Again, not a surprise. Spirits and ghosts didn't normally outright speak to you, no matter how much you wanted them to. I explored the room and was just about to leave when the door slammed shut all on its own. I ran over to the door, pounding my fists against it. What the hell? Let me out of here! Whoever this is, it's not funny! I was half expecting to hear someone threaten to call the cops on me, but no one said anything. There was the sound of something being dragged across the tile floor behind me. I spun around, flicking my headlamp back on. No one was in the room with me, but a tile had been moved off of the ceiling so that it was sitting ajar. I walked over to it and looked at it. There was a marking painted in the duct way above it. The marking was a triangle with 3 diagonal lines through it and 1 horizontal line. I had never seen anything like it before. "What are you?" I asked, the question just for myself. I wasn't expecting an answer. It felt like the room had gotten that much colder. There was something shimmering in the air, too. It took me a moment to realize that it was the blue light back in the room again. Spinning around, I found that the blue form was standing in front of the closed door. Now, I could see that it wasn't strictly human. It just had the unsettling appearance of something that was almost human. The mark from the ceiling above me appeared in the air before the spirit. And that's what it had to be, right? Some kind of spirit? I quickly pulled out my phone, using it to record video. I would put the audio in my podcast later, but I needed this visible evidence too. I'm deep inside of the abandoned Walmart, in what used to be the employee break room. I have been confronted by this spirit shortly after finding a mark in the duct above me. I angled the camera up to film the red mark. It wasn't old. A fat, red droplet fell down onto the screen of my phone. I was quick to wipe it away. It didn't feel like paint. It felt like blood. Nausea filled me. I don't know what's happening, but it's my assumption that the Walmarts closed down during the pandemic were really the site of a cult. What they were trying to do here, I have no idea. I have files that have been sent to me about how high fields of energy, such as anger, can be used to summon spirits and weaken the field between our 2 realms. Is there anywhere in the world that would make you angrier than standing in line at Walmart for 2 hours? And let's not get into how rancid this place is during Black Friday week. I turned the phone back to the spirit. This guy is just standing here. I don't think that it's aware of me. I stepped closer. The spirit paid me no mind. This would, of course, be the source of the blue light that people have been reporting. I can only imagine that these specters can be found in all of the closed-down Walmarts. Suddenly, the spirit's head snapped to the side to stare at me. It turned into black and white static, and the screen of my phone cracked. The spirit screamed and lunged at me. Screaming, I threw myself backwards, barely avoiding the creature's hands. All around me, the walls of the store appeared to be rotting. Thick, wet spots spread over their surface, and the rancid scent of stagnant water and spoiled milk filled the air. The wood was warping. I slammed my shoulder into the door and it popped open. The hinges weakened with rust and moisture. The rest of the store was fine for the moment, but the rot was spreading out of the break room. I didn't even think to grab my phone before I left. I just took off running as fast as I could towards the exit. My heart was thundering in my ears. My boots were thundering against the ground. Behind me, the spirit screamed again. The sound echoed. I was still holding the can of beets. I threw it at the glass door hard as I could. It shattered in great big pains, letting me climb out through the broken chunks. The glass hit the ground. I grabbed my bag, glancing over my shoulder, and the Walmart had turned back to normal. An alarm was sounding. I didn't have time to stay there lingering, and I knew that, with the truth uncovered about these closures, I would never be able to shop at another Walmart again.
Subscribe today, or beware.